We will recite some prayers before starting our Gita. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaidam Savadutam Parijana Sagitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our weekly study of Bhagavad Gita. The systematic study of Bhagavad Gita we have been doing for past several weeks. So last few weeks we have been, in reading the first chapter of Gita. This first chapter is divided into two sections. Section 1 is the introduction, and then section 2 is Arjuna's reasons for not fighting. Under the introduction, again there are three subsections. Right, the first subsection is preparation for war. That is verses 1.1 to 1.10. 1.10. And so second subsection, sorry, 1.11. So second subsection is signs of victory for Pandavas, 1.12 to 1.20. So that's what we covered last week. Today we are seeing the third subsection in the first section of the first chapter of Gita. So this is verses 1.21 to 27. So Krishna as Bhaktavatsala. So in the preparation for war, we saw that, first Dhritarashtra inquired from Sanjaya, his secretary, what is happening in the battlefield. Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveda Yutsavaga Mamaka Pandavaschaya Kim Akurvata Sanjaya. Like that he inquired, what did my sons, desiring to fight, what did my sons and Pandu's son do in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is also known as Dharma Kshetra. So he becomes very curious to know what is going to happen. So because he is very much self-interested, he was very much, attached to the land. The name Dhritarashtra. Rashtra means land. Dhritarashtra means one who controls the land or one who usurps the land. So he was very much attached to the land. He didn't want to give up the kingdom, which rightfully belongs to the Pandavas. So he was very curious, and Sanjaya replied to his, question, saying that Sanjaya had been bestowed with a special ability by the mercy of his Gurudev Vyasadev. Vyasa had given a special ability for Sanjaya to do remote vision, Dur Darshan. We know the name Dur Darshan. In India, right? Our public television channel, government television channel is called Doordarshan. Doordarshan means remote vision. Hmm. So that's what he had the ability to do Doordarshan of what is going on in the battlefield, which is away from Hastinapur. Hmm. So he was able to look at the battlefield and tell remotely, describe to the blind king Dhritarashtra. Sanjaya had that ability by the mercy of Vyasa. So he immediately tells what's going on in the battlefield. He says immediately what did Duryodhana did. Duryodhana did this political maneuvering. He went to Dronacharya and said, so you are like, your disciple Drishtadimna had expertly arranged the army in the opposite side. So we have to protect, our side also we have very good warriors. They also have warriors. And then Bhishma is little old, we have to protect him from all directions. Like that, he gives this political speech. At the time to silence him, immediately Bhishma blew his conch shell. Following that, and then the Pandavas, starting from Krishna and Arjuna, they all blew their respective conch shells. All of them are described in the second subsection. And then along with it, after describing all the people, right? Also it says that the heart, when they heard the conch shell blew from the Pandava side, it shattered the heart of Kauravas. So Prabhupada writes in purport that there are several reasons here it's indicated for the signs of victory of Pandavas. First reason was given as that Madhava is addressed. Madhava means husband of goddess of fortune. Wherever goddess of fortune is there, that's where the victory is. Wherever Krishna is there, that's where victory is going to be. So that's one sign of victory for the Pandavas. And then the conch shell blown by the Pandavas are mentioned as transcendental conch shells, whereas the other side it is not mentioned as transcendental conch shells. So that sign that also indicates a victory for the Pandavas. And also the chariot given by Agni to Arjuna is inconquerable. It can go in all directions. And that because of that also they are unconquerable. They are going to sign of that's one of the sign of victory for the Pandavas. Like that, there are a list of signs of victory. Then Hanumanji is present in the flag of Arjuna, right? Hanuman was, for Hanuman earlier fought on the side of Lord Rama and they were able to defeat Ravana. So like that, a list of reasons or signs of victory for the Pandavas were given in the second subsection. Now we are going to see the third subsection, Krishna as Bhaktsa Vatsala. So we are going to continue to read from the verse 1.21. So the last verse, right, 20, it ended Sanjaya describing, at that time Arjuna, the son of Pandu, seated in the chariot bearing the flag marked with Hanuman, took up his bow and prepared to shoot his arrows. O king, after looking at the sons of Dhritarashtra drawn in military array, Arjuna then spoke to Lord Krishna these words. Arjuna Vacha Senayor Ubayor Madhye Ratam Stapaya Me Chuta Yavat Etan Niriksheham Yodukamam Avastitan Kairmaya Saga Yodavyam Ashmindrana Samudyame. Arjuna said, O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies so that I may see those present here who desire to fight and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Although Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, out of His costless mercy, He was engaged in the service of His friend. he never fails in his affection for his devotees, and thus he is addressed herein as infallible. So here Prabhupada is telling the meaning of the word Achyuta. Achyuta means the infallible one. Achyuta, Krishna's name is Achyuta. Krishna is addressed as Achyuta. What does it mean? It means infallible one. What he is infallible? He never fails in his affection for his devotees, or he never fails to protect his devotees, or he never fails in the words given to his devotees. As charioteer, he had to carry out the orders of Arjuna, and since he did not hesitate to do so, he is addressed as infallible. Whatever his devotees say, Krishna simply executes. That's also the reason he is called infallible. Here, you have to understand, being a charioteer for a great Maharati like Arjuna is not an easy task. When Arjuna is fighting, he doesn't have time to speak. Right? When he wants Krishna to turn right, he will give a kick using his feet. He will kick Krishna on the rights, in the back on the right hand side. Then Krishna will turn right. When he wants Krishna to turn left, Arjuna will kick Krishna on his left hand side, the back. When he wants Krishna to go straight, he will kick Krishna in the middle. Because he doesn't have time to speak. So this is what it means to become chariot driver for Arjuna. Even though the Lord, him being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he had taken a humble position. Because he doesn't have any, false pride, and he doesn't have any ego. Because Krishna is transcendental. He is willing to become a servant of his own servant. So that is why he is addressed as infallible. Although he had accepted the position of charioteer for his devotee, his supreme position was not challenged. In all circumstances, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hrishikesha, the Lord of the total senses. The relationship between the Lord and his servitor is very sweet and transcendental. The servitor is always ready to render service to the Lord. And similarly, the Lord is always seeking an opportunity to render some service to the devotee. He takes great pleasure in his pure devotees, assuming the advantageous position of ordering him than he does in being the giver of orders. The Lord, even though he is eternally a supreme master, we are all eternally the supreme servant, he likes to take order from his eternal servants, pure devotees. Since he is master, everyone is under his orders, and no one is above him to order him. But when he finds that a pure devotee is ordering him, he obtains transcendental pleasure, although he is the infallible master in all circumstances. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Arjuna had no desire to fight with his cousins and brothers, but he was forced to come onto the battlefield by abstinency of Duryodhana. He was never agreeable to any peaceful negotiation. Therefore, he was very anxious to see who the leading persons present on the battlefield were. Although there was no question of a peacemaking endeavor in the battlefield, he wanted to see them again and to see how much they were bent upon demanding an unwanted war. Prabhupada here in this purport very succinctly tells, Arjuna never wanted to fight in this war. He was forced by Duryodhana's abstinency. All the Pandavas earlier had requested Krishna to go on a peace mission. Krishna, even though very well knew the intentions of Duryodhana, even though he knew that the peace mission is going to fail, in spite of that, because his devotees requested him, on the request of the Pandavas, Krishna did make an attempt to go to Hastinapur and try to make a peace deal. In that peace deal, he was telling, even if you cannot give the kingdom, at least give them 5 villages. because they are Kshatriyas. They cannot do any other duty other than administrating the provinces. So at least give them 5 villages so that they can discharge their prescribed duties. But Duryodhana was so stubborn that he said he will not even give land which can be kept at the head of the side, like the head of the pin. How much land it can hold? Not even that much land I will give. Not only that, he tried to capture Krishna and put him in jail, thinking that if Krishna is there, Arjuna said, then only they will fight. If I put Krishna in jail, then Pandavas will give up fighting, like that. So not only he was stubborn in not giving the kingdom, he was actually like all the devious means he was trying to do to win the war or to keep the kingdom himself. So here again Prabhupada says that even though the Lord is the supreme personality, he likes to fulfill the order of his pure devotees. He takes transcendental pleasure. So after making all this endeavor for peaceful negotiation, the Pandavas, all the attempt failed. Then Pandavas didn't have a choice, so they had come to fight. And now Arjuna wanted to see who had come, who and all stubborn in fighting. That's what he wanted to see. Next verse. योस्त्यमानम् अवक्षेहं यतेत्र समागतः धारत्राष्ट्रिय दुर्बुद्धेर युद्धे प्रिय चिकीर्षवः. Translation: let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. Here, Dhritarashtrasya Durbuddher. Durbuddhi means, evil-minded. That's what Prabhupada translates as. The evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. Who is that? Duryodhana. He said he and all had come to fight on behalf of Duryodhana. Purport: it was an open secret that Duryodhana wanted to usurp the kingdom of Pandavas by evil plans in collaboration with his father Dhritarashtra. Therefore, all persons who had joined the side of Duryodhana must have been birds of the same feather. Arjuna wanted to see them on the battlefield before the fight was begun, just to learn who they were, but he had no intention of proposing peace negotiation with them. It was also a fact that he wanted to see them to make an estimate of the strength which he had to face, although he was quite confident of victory because Krishna was sitting by his side. Arjuna here, he wanted to see who and all had come other side. Krishna Prabhupada is telling here, it is the duty of a Kshatriya. Before the war begins, he has to estimate the strength of the opposition. That's one of the war tactics. One of the rules of the war is that one of the quality of a good Kshatriya is that before jumping into the war, he has to estimate the strength of the opposition. So that's why he had requested Krishna to drive the chariot to the middle so that he can see who and all had come on the side of Duryodhana to fight against them. Next verse. Sanjaya uvacha evam yukto Hrishikesho Gudakeshena Bharata Senayor Ubayor Madhye Stapayetva Ratottamam. Sanjaya said, O descendant of Bharata, having thus being addressed by Arjuna, Lord Krishna drew up the fine chariot in the midst of the armies of both parties. Purport: in this verse, Arjuna is referred to as Gudakesha. Gudaka means sleep, and one who conquers sleep is called Gudakesha. Sleep also means ignorance. So Arjuna conquered both sleep and ignorance because of his friendship with Krishna. The word Gudakesha means one who conquered sleep. The reason is, one of the reasons why he got the name is when he was under the Gurukula, under the training of, Dronacharya, when he was learning the archery, one time, the Dronacharya had always told him that never to eat food, especially his dinner, in darkness. So one time, while they were eating their dinner, the light lamp went off. So then, because they were in the middle of eating, he continued to eat. So then Arjuna realized, oh, without light also I can eat food. My hand knows where the food is on the table or on the plate. It knows where the food on the plate is. It can pick up the food and it can put in my mouth without having the light. If my hand can do that, picking up the food and putting in the mouth in darkness, why my hand cannot pick up the arrow, right, from the quiver I have and aim at the target and shoot in darkness? Then he started practicing even at night time, without in the darkness also he started practicing. Because he did that, he is called Gudakesha. He conquered sleep. He did not sleep. He always even trained, even in darkness, without sleeping. Also, Prabhupada says the word here, Gudaka means sleep. Also, it means ignorance. And he conquered both sleep and ignorance. How? Because of his friendship with Krishna. Because his friendship with Krishna, he controls Krishna. Whatever he says, Krishna is doing. And Krishna is the controller of material energy, Maya Devi. And Maya Devi is the controller of the three modes, including the mode of ignorance. Because Arjuna is the controller of the controller of the controller of mode of ignorance, he had conquered the mode of ignorance, Gudakesha. Because of his friendship with Krishna, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, he is the controller of Maya Devi, the material energy. And Maya Devi is the controller of the three modes, including the Tamoguna, mode of ignorance. So because his association with Krishna, he controlled mode of ignorance as well. He controlled ignorance. Right? As a great devotee of Krishna, he could not forget Krishna even for a moment, because that is the nature of a devotee. Either in waking or in sleep, a devotee of the Lord can never be free from thinking of Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes. Thus, a devotee of Krishna can conquer both sleep and ignorance simply by thinking of Krishna constantly. This is called Krishna consciousness or Samadhi. As Hrishikesha, or the director of the senses and mind of every living entity, Krishna could understand Arjuna's purpose in placing the chariot in the midst of the armies. Thus, he did so and spoke as follows. Bhishmadrona Pramukhataha Sarvesham Cha Mahikshitam Vacha Partha Pashyaitam Samavetan Kurun Iti. In the presence of Bhishma, Drona, and all the other chieftains of the world, the Lord said, just behold, Partha, all the Kurus assembled here. So this verse, this is the first time, Krishna is speaking here in Bhagavad Gita. This is also not, actually, like here, Sanjaya is retelling, these are the words spoken by the Lord. Just behold, Partha, all the Kurus assembled here. Purport. As the super soul of all living entities, Lord Krishna could understand what was going on in the mind of Arjuna. The use of the word Hrishikesha in this connection indicates that he knew everything. And the word Partha means the son of Pritha or Kunti. He is also similarly significant in reference to Arjuna. As a friend, he wanted to inform Arjuna that because Arjuna was the son of Pritha, the sister of his own father Vasudeva, he had agreed to be the charioteer of Arjuna. Now, what did Krishna mean when he told Arjuna to behold the Kurus? Did Arjuna want to stop there and not fight? Krishna never expected such thing from the son of his aunt Pritha. The mind of Arjuna was thus predicted by the Lord in friendly joking. Here Krishna very well knew that Arjuna is going to get into this dilemma of fighting. So, because of that, he is joking. Just behold, Partha, all the crews assembled together. He knew next what's going to happen. Hmm? So, him being the knower of the past, present, and future, Krishna is the super soul living in all living entities. He knows all our thought process. Hmm? He is seated in everyone's heart as super soul, right? Sarvasya Shagam Hridi Vishtu Mata Smritir Gyanam Apohanam Cha Vedaisha Charver Akamve Vivedyo Vedanta Kritveda Videva Chagam. In the 15th chapter, 15th verse, Krishna says that I am situated in everyone's heart. From me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. And then I am the knower of all the Vedas. By all Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta. Like that Krishna says in the 15th chapter, 15th verse. It's very, very important verse. He is seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. Again, he says like Upadrashta Anumantacha Bharta Bhokta Mageshwara Paramatmeti Chapyukto Degeshmin Purusha Para. Yet in this body there is another knower, right? In the previous verses, in the 13th chapter, Krishna, when he describes the living entity, the living entities are seated in the region of the heart, the soul. Along with the soul, there is another knower. He is also known as Paramatma, super soul. And he is the one Upadrashta, overseeing everything, Anumanta, permitting everything. Bharta Bhokta Mageshwara, by he is the controller of everything. Right? Like that Krishna says. He is present in everyone's heart as Paramatma, hence he could see what is going on in Arjuna's mind. Next verse, 1.26. तत्र पश्यत् स्थितन् पार्थ पितृन् अथ पितामहन् आचार्यन् मतुलन् भ्रात्रन् पुत्रन् पौत्रन् सखिंस्तत स्वाशुरन् सुहृदश्चैव सेनयोर उभयोरपि. Therefore, Arjuna could see within the midst of the armies of both parties his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and also his fathers-in-law and well-wishers. Purport. On the battlefield, Arjuna could see all kinds of relatives. He could see persons like Bhurishrava, who were his father's contemporaries, grandfathers Bhishma and Somadatta, teachers like Dronacharya and Kripacharya, maternal uncles like Salya and Shakuni, brothers like Duryodhana, and sons like Lakshmana, friends like Ashwatthama, well-wishers like Kritavarma, etc. He could see also the armies which contained many of his friends, right? So in the opposite side, not just the the Kauravas, the sons of Dhritarashtra. Some of them are his friends, his grandfather, his teachers, his well-wishers, cousins, uncles. So many of his well-wishers also present on the other side. Next verse, 1.27. Tan samikshasha kaunteyah sarvan bandhun avastitan kripaya para ya vishto vishidan idam abravit. When the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. Here, Arjuna, Krishna, when he drove the chariot to the midst of the battlefield, he brought the chariot just in front of Drona and Bhishma. So this actually, there is a reason why Krishna brings in front of Bhishma and Drona, because he knew very well that Arjuna had so much of love and affection and respect for his grandfather Bhishma. And then he has so much of appreciation and respect for his guru Dronacharya. And he was the one of the favorite disciple of Dronacharya. So he had so much of affection for the elders, especially Bhishma and Drona. Krishna brought him in front of them to indicate right? That he wanted to actually, Krishna wanted the Bhagavad Gita to be spoken for all of us. He wanted to use Arjuna as a tool so that, Arjuna, he brought Arjuna in front of Bhishma and Drona so that Arjuna will get bewildered by looking at his respectable elders, so that he will get confused, so that he will surrender to Krishna, so that he can speak Bhagavad Gita. This is the plan of Krishna. So that is why he brings Arjuna in front of Bhishma and Drona. The Acharyas also explain Bhishma and Drona, right, represents the attachment to kith and kin, relatives and friends. So, in order to begin spiritual life, in order to advance in spiritual life, one has to cut the attachments of this world. The attachments of this world, various type of attachment we all have, they are like anchor to the boat. It is mentioned in the scripture, human body is like a boat. This material existence is like the ocean. The human body is like a boat. The soul is like the passenger in the boat. Guru is like the captain of the boat. The favorable winds are the directions of the scriptures, and the attachment to this world are the anchor which ties the boat to the shore. Even if you rowing the boat all night, if the anchors are not detached, the boat is not going to go anywhere. So similarly, the attachment, the bodily attachment we all have in this world, if those are not detached, if those are not cut, we will not be able to make advancement in spiritual life. And what is that attachment? The strongest of all the attachment is attachment to the relatives and friends. Especially that is why, Bhishma represents attachment to relatives. And even though Bhishma was brought down, the 13th day, he was brought down. He was on the deathbed of arrow. Even after everybody died, still Bhishma did not die. He is the last one to die, last one to leave the body. So hence, Bhishma, the Acharyas explained, Bhishma represents the attachment to relatives, which is one of the hardest thing for the living entity to give up, because we identify ourselves with the body. Because we are identifying ourselves with the body, anything which is connected to the body, we are attached. Especially the body is attached to all its relatives, because the body, through bodily identification, we relate with all our relatives. And the more they are closer to the body, the more is the attachment. So hence, Krishna is also indicating here that until you cut this attachment, we will not be able to make spiritual progress. And to cut that attachment only, he speaks the Gita. So that is the Acharya's explanation. That's why Krishna brings specifically Arjuna in front of Bhishma and Drona. 1.28. So this verse is part of the next section. So this section, Krishna as Bhaktavatsala 1.21 to 1.27. Here, how Arjuna ordered Krishna to bring to the middle of the battlefield so that he can see who and all had come. And Arjuna, Krishna, him being, infallible, Achyuta, he obeyed the instructions of Krishna and drove the chariot. That's why he's called Bhaktavatsala. He always fulfills the words of his devotees. He never fails to protect his devotees. He never fails to uphold the words of his devotees. So let's go through some of the lessons from the purport, whatever we read. Let me just highlight out and recap on what we saw so far. So here I'm reading from the notes, the study notes. We have the study guide. We have subsection C, Krishna as Bhaktavatsala. So text 1.21 to 23. The common theme is that Arjuna requests the infallible Lord to drag his chariot in the middle to see who are the leading men present with a desire to fight to please evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. The focus of learning from the purports 1.21 to 23 is the word meaning of Achyuta is infallible. He is addressed so because Lord never fails in his affection for devotees, thus engaged in the service of his friend out of his costless mercy. And Lord does not hesitate to carry out the order of Arjuna. He did not hesitate to carry out the order of Arjuna as his charioteer. Still, his supreme position as Hrishikesha, the Lord of senses, was unchallenged. The relationship between the Lord and the devotee is sweet and transcendental. A devotee always engages, always eager to serve the Lord, and the Lord obtains transcendental pleasure in receiving the orders of his pure devotee, although he is always infallible, the supreme master. Why Arjuna asked to move the chariot amidst the armies? Because Arjuna was forced to fight against his wish, because of the obstinacy of Duryodhana. And he was anxious to see who are the leading men present with the desire to fight to please Duryodhana. Right? He wanted to see all birds must be of the same feather, who and all had joined the side of Duryodhana. And to see how much they were bent upon fighting and to estimate the strength which he had to face, although confident of victory because of Krishna sitting on his side. But he had no intention of peacemaking at this moment, because the peacemaking attempt was already made earlier, before even everybody assembled in the battlefield. So that mission failed, and Duryodhana did not agree for peace mission. He was not even willing to give 5 villages for the Pandavas. What to speak of 5 villages? Not even a land which can hold in the head of a pin. He didn't want to give. So the peace mission failed. So Arjuna did not have any. The reason why he came is to, estimate the strength, and he wanted to see, won't all fight against, come to fight against them on behalf of Duryodhana, right? He had no intention of making peace at this moment. In 1.24, the theme was Krishna draws the chariot. Krishna Hrishikesha draws the chariot on the request of Arjuna Gudakesha, right? In the midst of the armies of both parties. The focus of learning here is Arjuna as Gudakesha, one who conquers sleep. Gudaka means sleep, also means ignorance. Arjuna conquered sleep and ignorance because of his friendship with Arjuna. We saw that how, Arjuna earlier conquered sleep while practicing archery. And then his friendship with Krishna, he conquered ignorance as well. The nature of the devotee is that he can never forget Krishna even for a moment, even while walking or sleeping condition. Devotee conquers sleep and ignorance because because of his constant Krishna consciousness. And this is called Samadhi. Krishna has Hrishikesha as the director of mind and senses. He could understand Arjuna's purpose in placing the chariot in the midst of the armies, hesitation to fight. That is the reason. So in 1.25, we saw the Lord place the chariot in front of Bhishma and Drona, etc. And the focus of the learning here is Lord knows Arjuna's mind and thus knows everything, being the super soul of living entities. Arjuna, referred to as Partha, indicates the son of Aunt Pritha, right? Kunti's name also is called Pritha. So because he is son of Pritha, he is called Partha. And Krishna, he had become the charioteer of Partha. That's why it's called Partha Sarathi. Thus Krishna wants to point out he became charioteer because Arjuna is son of his aunt Queen Kunti. Krishna said to Arjuna, behold the Kurus. This phrase indicates Arjuna's mind. Do you want to stop? Do you want to stop and not fight? That's the reason. Krishna does not expect such cowardly action from the son of his aunt. Mood of friendly joking expressed here. 26 and 27, the theme is Arjuna sees all relatives assembled on both sides, and thus overwhelmed with compassion, he starts speaking. The focus of learning is that different grades of relatives are mentioned. Grandfather Bhishma, Somadatta, father's contemporaries like Bhurishrava, teachers like Dronacharya and Kripacharya, maternal uncles like Salva and Chakuni, brothers like Duryodhana, sons like Lakshmana, right? Friends like Ashwatthama, well-wishers like Kritavarma. The armies containing many of his friends were there on the other side, you know. So this is the end of this subsection. So at this point, any questions, any comments any of you have?
No questions at this point.
Okay, no problem. So any comments? If not, we will just see the overview of the next section. So we won't read the verses now. Just I'll give the overview of what is coming ahead. Or maybe we can try to read some verses. Also, we'll try to cover something as well. Because the next section is a very big section, 28 to 46. This is the second section of the first chapter, second division of the first chapter, verses 28 to 46. Arjuna's arguments not to fight. Basically, there are 5 arguments. There are 4 arguments comes in this chapter. The 5th argument comes in the next chapter, beginning of next chapter. So practical application of this section is that identification with and attachment to the body disables one from executing his religious duties, which is ultimately to execute Krishna's will. It is interesting to analyze the cause and effect of Arjuna's bewilderment. It is brought on by seeing in terms of one's own self-interest. The result of such vision is fear, loss of composure, indecision, and confusion of moral codes. Here, when we see here this battlefield, right, Arjuna is trying to observe the opposition. Before we act, one has to do thought process. His thought process, his introspection is doing. First, he is doing the introspection before the war begins. What is he doing? Using his intelligence, he is identifying the enemies. He is identifying the strengths and weaknesses of them. Right? He is doing introspection. Introspection means identifying the enemies with his intelligence. He is identifying also the strengths and weaknesses. Now, if we use our own intelligence without Krishna's help, in introspection, in using our own intelligence, when we try to identify the strengths and weaknesses, the enemies, what will happen without Krishna getting involved? Indecision. These are the 4 I's in this section. The 4 I's are introspection, intelligence, right? Identification of the enemies and strengths and weaknesses, and using our own intelligence that leads to indecision. The 5 arguments, right? The argument number 1 is compassion for everyone. One should show compassion to all. So Arjuna gives the argument that all these people are my relatives. What to speak of, relatives, we are supposed to give compassion to one and all. So hence we should not fight. So this argument he gives in the next verse. That's what the following verse we are going to start next week, or now itself if time permits, we will start. 1.28 and 30, 29, 28, 29, 30 gives the arguments of compassion as a reason not to fight the war. And Lord Krishna is going to refute that argument in verses 2.11 to 30, right? That is Atma Jnana. His compassion is misplaced on the body. The real compassion should be for the soul. First, he refutes the argument of compassion because his compassion is bodily based, and Krishna refutes, saying that we are first of all not this body. The second reason Arjuna gives is loss of enjoyment, verses 1.31 to 35. And in these verses, he gives If we fight the war, right? If we fight this war and if we win the war, this kingdom will be tainted with blood of all my relatives. I will not be able to enjoy the kingdom, right? That's the argument he gives next, right? First, he gives compassion. Next, immediately he gives enjoyment. So, compassion is based on his bodily identification. Next is giving again enjoyment based on the body only. So this is the nature of the mind. One time he want to do so compassion, next time he immediately want to enjoy. This is the nature of the mind. Mind is like a monkey; it will jump hither and thither. So Arjuna Krishna refutes that argument in 31 and 32 of the second chapter. The third reason he gives is fear of sinful reaction. The elders like Bhishma and Drona, they are worshipable. If I kill them, I will go to hell and I have to suffer in the hell for several lifetimes. By killing my elders, I will be going to hellish region. So hence, he gives the fear of sinful reaction as a reason not to fight. 36 to 38. And Krishna refutes that in 33 to 2.33 to 37. And then the final reason in the first chapter he gives not to fight the war is destruction of family tradition. By killing all the elder, women will be unprotected. When women are unprotected, it will produce unwanted progeny, Varna Shankara. When unwanted population is created, right, they will not offer food and water to the elders. And because of that, all type of social welfare activities, everything will collapse. The whole society will collapse. When the elders are not there, when the elders are killed in the war, the women will be unprotected and that will lead to unwanted progeny. Because of unwanted progeny, the whole society will collapse. That's the reason he gives. Arjuna refutes that in 2.45, 46, also latest 2.34. So Arjuna's first argument is compassion, that is 1.28 to 30. Let's actually read those verses. 28. Arjuna uvacha dhritvemam svajanam Krishna yudsum samupastitam sidanti mama gatrani mukam cha parishyushyati. Translation. Arjuna said, my dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up. Purport. Any man who has genuine devotion to the Lord has all good qualities which are found in godly persons or in the demigods, whereas the non-devotee, however advanced he may be in material qualification by education and culture, lacks in godly qualities. As such, Arjuna, just after seeing his kinsmen, friends, and relatives on the battlefield, was at once overwhelmed by compassion for them, who had so desired to fight amongst themselves. As far as his soldiers were concerned, he was sympathetic from the beginning. But he felt compassion even for the soldiers of the opposite party, foreseeing their imminent death. And while he was so thinking, the limbs of his body began to quiver and his mouth became dry. He was more or less astonished to see their fighting spirit. Practically the whole community, all blood relatives of Arjuna, had come to fight with him. This overwhelmed a kind devotee like Arjuna. Although it is not mentioned here, still one can easily imagine that not only were Arjuna's bodily limbs quivering and his mouth drying up, but he was also crying out of compassion. Such symptoms in Arjuna were not due to weakness, but to his soft-heartedness, a characteristic of a pure devotee of Lord. It is therefore said, Yashyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana Sarvai Gunais Tatra Samaste Shuraha Harau Abhakshasti Kuto Mahat Guna Mano Pratenasti Davato Bahihi. One who has unflinching faith, unflinching devotion for the personality of Godhead, has all good qualities of the demigods. But one who is not a devotee of the Lord has only material qualifications that are of little value. This is because he is hovering on the mental plane and is certain to be attracted by the glaring material energy. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavata Purana, 5th canto, 18th chapter, 12th verse. Next verse, 1.29. वेपतुश्च सर्व वेपतुश्च शरीरे मे रोमहर्षश्च जायते गाण्डीवं समस्ते हस्तात् पक्षैव परिधायते. My whole body is trembling, my hair is standing on end, my bow Gandiva is slipping from my hand, and my skin is burning. Purport. There are two kinds of trembling of the body. The two kinds of standings of the hair on end. Such phenomena occur either in great spiritual ecstasy or out of great fear under material condition. There is no fear in transcendental realizations. Arjuna's symptoms in this situation are out of material fear, namely loss of life. This is evident from other symptoms also. He became so impatient that his famous bow Gandiva was slipping from his hand. And because his heart was burning within him, he was seeing a burning sensation of the skin. All these are due to material conception of life. 1.30 न च शक्नोमि अवस्थितुं भ्रामतीव च मे मनः निमित्तानि च पश्यामि विपरीतानि केशव. I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune. O Krishna, killer of the Kesi demon. Purport. Due to his impatience, Arjuna was unable to stay on the battlefield and he was forgetting himself on account of this weakness of his mind. The excessive attachment for material things puts a man in such a bewildering condition of existence. Bhayam Divibhishnes Chyat, Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 2nd chapter, 37th verse, it's mentioned. Such fearfulness and loss of mental equilibrium take place in persons who are too affected by material conditions. Arjuna envisioned only painful reverses in the battlefield. He could not be happy even by gaining victory over the foe. The word nimitani viparitani are significant. When a man sees only frustration in his expectations, he thinks, why am I here? Everyone is interested in himself and his own welfare. No one is interested in the Supreme Self. Arjuna is showing ignorance of his real self-interest by Krishna's will. One's real self-interest lies in Vishnu or Krishna. The conditioned soul forgets this and therefore suffers material pains. Arjuna thought that his victory in the battle would only be a cause of lamentation for him. So here Prabhupada is pointing out Arjuna, he is a pure devotee of the Lord. Right? He will never lose his mental equilibrium. He is actually, compassionate. He is very genuine. Here, he is put Krishna in that situation so that he will get bewildered, so that he can speak the Gita. That's the purport here. That's the lesson here. So Arjuna's compassion is based on body. That bodily, even though he is a pure devotee, he knows very well that he is not this body. He was put by Krishna to identify himself with the body and all the relatives, so that he will develop this misplaced compassion on the body, the relationship, so that he will get bewildered, so that he will give all the reasons not to fight, so that he will become indecisive. Finally, he will surrender to Krishna so that Krishna can speak the Bhagavad Gita from the basic of first pointing out, we are not this body, So that's the purpose. Krishna actually puts Arjuna through this situation. Arjuna is an eternal devotee of Krishna. He knows Bhagavad Gita always, When Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita in the beginning of creation, sun god Vibhushan, at the time also Arjuna was present. Wherever Krishna speaks Gita, Arjuna is always there. Arjuna never forgets Gita. He knows very well who Krishna is, who he is, and what his duty is. But Krishna puts Arjuna in a situation so that Arjuna gets bewildered, so that he can speak the Gita. That's what Acharyas explain. So we will stop here. In the first reason, Arjuna's first reason is compassion. So, right, 1.28 to 30. Right? There's some signs of compassion, when the limbs are quivering for Arjuna, mouth is drying up, whole body is trembling, hair is standing on end, hands, Gandiva bow is slipping, and his skin is burning, and legs are unable to stand any longer due to impatience. Forgetting myself, my mind is reeling due to the weakness of heart. Sees only causes of misfortune. This is what happens when we introspect to identify this, the strengths and weaknesses of the opposition. Right? When we introspect, through the introspection, when we identify the strengths and weaknesses of the battle we have to fight, the army, the opposition we have to fight, using our own material intelligence, that will lead to indecision. The focus of learning from the purports 1.28 to 30 is the cause of compassion. There are two different viewpoints for the cause of compassion. One is due to soft-heartedness of a pure devotee. And a pure devotee is always, compassionate to others. What to speak of human beings? To all the souls, all the jivas, right? Because of his unflinching devotion to the Supreme Lord, they have all the good qualities, right? In contrast, non-devotees, they may be advanced in education and culture, but they lack godly qualities because they always hover on the mental plane and they are attracted by glaring material energy, right? So what indicates the soft-heartedness of Arjuna? Because of his sympathy for both the parties. The second type of compassion is false compassion due to material fear, namely loss of life. Indicates material conception of life. Impatience. Due to his impatience, Arjuna was unable to stay on the battlefield. And because of the weakness of his mind, he was forgetting himself. And his excessive attachment through the body, right, puts him in such a bewildered situation. When we are materially attached, excessive attachment to the material things puts a man in bewildered condition. And then two kinds of trembling and standing of hairs on the end. One is out of spiritual ecstasy, another is out of great fear under material condition. The cause of fearfulness, right? Bhagavatam says that comes because such fearfulness and loss of equilibrium takes place in a person too affected by material conditions. The practical application from this is that one should not be disturbed with material temporary changes because that is the nature of the material world. This material world means constant change. What is constant in this world? Change is the only constant. Because of all the changes happening in this world, one should not get bewildered. One should not get disturbed. If we get disturbed, we will lose the mental equilibrium. Then we will not be able to make the right decision. The importance of the word nimittani viparitani, to see only cause of misfortune, only pain and frustration Arjuna could see. To see only painful reverses and sees only frustration in expectations. And then he sees no happiness. He sees only pain and frustration. Not to be even by victory, it would only give him lamentation. Causes of such frustration in life, right, is because of the misdirected interest. Only interested in one's own welfare. When we are interested in our own welfare, right, we will be misdirected, we will get bewildered, right? We should be really interested in our own self-interest. What is our real self-interest? Real self-interest is in Vishnu's satisfaction. When Vishnu is satisfied, our soul is satisfied. That is our real self-interest. Conditional nature is to forget this real self-interest, and this is the cause of material pain. Is Arjuna a conditioned soul? Arjuna is showing ignorance of his real self-interest by Krishna's will. Arjuna is not a conditioned living entity like us. He is not bewildered by material energy. He was put in the situation by Krishna's will, so that Krishna can speak Bhagavad Gita. So this is the first reason Arjuna gives why not to fight this war. So any comments, questions on this set of verses?
Chitapa,
Yes.
I have a doubt. Why Dronacharya asked Krishna not to eat in darkness?
Yeah, it's generally, generally you should not eat in darkness, because, you might, unknowingly kill some living entities, because sometimes say insect can fall or something can fall in the food. You might do that, right? That's the reason. But another reason here is Dronacharya very well knew that if Arjuna could figure out that his hands could put the food from the mouth to the mouth from the plate in darkness, he could very well also practice archery in the night time without light. He didn't want him to not to do that. He didn't want Arjuna to lose sleep and all night practice. Because of that reason, he tells him not to eat food in the night time or in darkness. If he eats, if he can, that's what later he figures out. Eventually, when the light goes off, one day when the light goes off, he figures out that his hand can take the food and put it in the mouth. Then he realizes, he is thinking, hey, if my hand can take the food from the plate and put it in the mouth without light, why not my hand can pick up the bow from my quiver and shoot the arrow in darkness. Then he started practicing his, archery even in night time. Just by sound, direction of the sound, he could aim at the target. He was so sharp, he was so intelligent that just by even in darkness, he could aim at the target. He could practice. So Dronacharya, out of compassion for him, that if my disciple comes to know this, that he can practice in the night time also, he will never take rest. So out of compassion, he tells him not to eat, in darkness. But in general, one should not eat food in darkness because, invariably unknowingly you might kill some other living entities, like an ant or insect or something which falls on the food.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Questions? So if not, we'll come to a stop here. Then we'll continue next week, the second subsection of the first chapter, which is the reasons for Arjuna's not to fight the war. Already we saw the first reason. The first reason is compassion. Second reason is going to be fear of loss of enjoyment. And then third reason is fear of sinful reaction. And then fourth reason is destruction of family tradition. So next week we will see the second reason Arjuna gives, loss of enjoyment. If I win in this war, right, I will not be able to enjoy the kingdom because this kingdom will be tainted with blood. So hence I will not be able to enjoy. That's the reason he's going to give next set of verses. Okay, thank you very much. We will stop here and we'll continue next week again, next Sunday at 5 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prashantji. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Chitapa.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kavita, for joining. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining. Thank you very much. Thank you all.